So thank you so much for having us today. So my name's Emma Pemberton. I'm the Director of Consulting Services at a company called Wellingtone. If you haven't heard of us, I will do a little bit of an introduction so you know what we're about. With me today is my colleague Baz. Baz, do you want to say hi and just introduce your role?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Baz Kinder, Commercial Director at Wellington and long-term Microsoft project consultant. And I started my PMO journey back in 2005 when I used to work for a company called Sage. And I used to work in the Northeast in their PMO as a project specialist. But I'll be running through the technology stack this morning and or this afternoon and talking specifically about the retirement of Project Online and what the successor to that looks like. So yeah, some interesting content coming up. Back to you, Emma.
Thanks, Baz. So Emma Arnath Pemberton, as we know, we are using Menti, so do feel free to go onto that and just give us your experience. It is anonymous, and we will be taking Q&A at the end. So just pop any questions in the chat, and we'll have a look at it. So let's get into it. That's just the code and the QR code for Menti if you want it. So why are we here? We're here today to talk to you about one of the most significant changes in the project management industry for some time, the retirement of Microsoft Project Online, and to give you some practical ideas on how to move forward and what the future might actually look like for you if you are using this technology. So let me tell you a little bit about Wellingtone. As I mentioned, I'm the Director of Consulting Services. I'm a PMO specialist by trade, so it's nice to see some PMO people here. And at Wellingtone, we've been around since 2001. Our mission is to enable our clients to make a step change in their project management maturity. And we do that through three core distinct services. One is technology. We are a Microsoft Gold partner. As you can see from our backgrounds and from the slide, we are Microsoft's Partner of the Year for Project Management this year. That was announced in November 2025. So we're very, very proud that we've been working with Microsoft. We work very closely with them, and we have a great relationship with them. And over time, that's led to us becoming finalists in the Partner of the Year award, and this year, the winner of that. We also deliver consultancy. So consultancy, we look at PMO transformation and setup, maturity, OKRs and benefits realization, one of the dark arts of PMO, and project assurance. And we also have our Wellingtone Training Academy, which is focused around the Association for Project Management, which is the chartered body for our profession here in the UK. So we deliver the APM qualifications, as well as a bunch of courses that we've authored and had independently assessed and stamped by the APM. And we wrap all up in our community because we believe that some technology or a nice process or a training course isn't going to make you an expert in a particular area. Actually, it's the usability of that and you learning from experience. So our Wellingtone community is a closed community for all of our Wellingtone friends, and we use that to deliver free events like this every single month. And I know that the guys at Reed have got a list of all of our events. So if there's anything in there that piques your interest, then you can join for free, and you can do that through that
I'll
community.
just Emma, I'll pop the link to the event page in our projects communities because we've got all your upcoming ones logged there.
Brilliant. Thank you. If you join our community, you also get access to a free clinic. We call it the Dr. PMO Clinic, and that is effectively a space for you to be able to just pick up the phone and ask some questions. No sales. We're very much a no sales company in the sense of we're not constantly trying to push our products. Today, we are going to show you our product because it is important when you're looking at the options and the next steps that you have. As I mentioned, we've been around since 2001. We've worked with lots of companies across all industries, all different sizes and scales across the world. Our offices, we are based here in the United Kingdom, so we have our head office in Windsor. We also have Wellingtone Spain, Wellingtone Ireland, Wellingtone India, and Wellingtone USA, which is our most recent acquisition within the Wellingtone family. So we're kind of everywhere. We work across different languages, different time zones, yeah, we hope that today this really gives you a view of what the future might look like. Before we do that, I think it's important to just go back to the beginning. I know we've got some people who may be not actively involved in projects, so we're going to just turn to the APM for some help on that first. The beginning, what is a project? A project is a unique and transient endeavour. It's something that we're only going to do one time, and it has to have a start and an end date. And we take on projects to bring about some kind of change that we define in the terms of outputs, outcomes, and benefits. And we normally deem a project a success if we deliver that through our through the time, cost, and quality constraints that we put around our projects. So although some of you might think my company doesn't really do projects, chances are if you're changing something, which most companies are most of the time, you are running projects. It might be that you're not running projects in a kind of consistent or structured way. But we know that we have the idea that we have a repeatable way of working that's tried and tested that we know is going to lead us to more successful outcomes. That's what we call project management. Project management is all about understanding why we're making that change, making sure we understand what we are and what we aren't changing, making sure that we've got the right people in the right roles at the right time, which is really important, making sure that we plan. We always say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So we are very keen on good planning and scheduling. But actually, some of the softer skills are coming to the forefront of project management. So leading and motivating the team, being able to manage in ambiguous situations, being able to articulate when things are going to plan, but also when things aren't going to plan. And really that communication piece is becoming much, much more important, especially as we tend to now work in this dispersed way through virtual teams. Usually project management is managed in a central place. There's some kind of tool or a system like Microsoft Project Online, which is the most prolific tool that we tend to use within the industry. And that's why this conversation is so important, because lots of us are used to knowing how to work with Project Online. What does that mean if I'm using Project Desktop? And it's important that you know what the next steps are. At Wellingtone, we do annual research on the state of project management. So as much as we have ways to deliver, we still have a problem. In our latest research, which was first published in 2016, we actually can see that still on average 40% of our projects actually deliver to time, to the cost that we agreed up front, and deliver what we expected. So as an industry, we still have an issue there. And part of that issue comes from the challenges that organisations tell us they're currently dealing with. So we can see here some core challenges which we've been tracking since the first edition of our report. And what we see is the top two have stayed pretty static since 2016. Poorly trained project managers and attempting to run too many projects. So some of you might be nodding, thinking, yes, we try to do too much. And you would be it's a very common challenge. But the top one is really interesting because in the days since the pandemic, we have seen the rise of what we call the accidental project manager. These are SMEs, subject matter experts, who accidentally find themselves doing projects and have never really had proper training or support. So the days are gone when we only bring in experienced external project managers. Lots of organizations are trying to do a lot more with a lot less. And this is where we're starting to see this poorly trained project managers being that we haven't supported our people enough through having the right structures that they can confidently work within, but also giving them some support so that if they do accidentally find themselves running projects, they know what the next bit that they need to do is. So we will share this and our latest report with the guys, so that can be shared with you after. And that's just to kind of give you a little bit of a view on the state of project management as an industry. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to head over to Baz, or hand over to Baz, I should say, who's going to talk to us about that most popular project management tool that's really been ingrained in our organizations for so many years, and therefore its retirement is bringing a significant change that unfortunately we can't ignore. We actually need to do something about this, and Baz is going to explain why. Baz, do you want to take over sharing?
Yes, I will do. Are we going to go back to Menti as well, are we? Or
yes, we can do that now. Let's see.
Yeah, if you don't mind, it would be useful to have a look at what people have responded,
Okay.
and I can then tweak the presentation as required.
So thank you all. If you have joined us late, you do still have time. This is to stay open. So do kind of share with us your experience. So we haven't had any responses on some of the slides just yet. So do you want to get started and then we'll come
Yeah,
back
no problem.
when
We'll
you
come
have a
back to
natural
that.
break?
That's absolutely fine. So bear with me 2 moments, and I will apologize in advance because I'm not going to be looking at my camera when I'm presenting. I've got a dual screen setup, so I'll be looking at my presentation on the other screen. But I do just want to reiterate that we are Microsoft Partner of the Year for Project and Portfolio Management. That was announced a couple of months ago, and of interest generally would be that we were the only UK partner in the top 4. The other 3 partners were all US based, and in the year prior to that, 2024, we were recognized as being top 4 globally. So just a bit of a recap on that front. Now, I'm going to talk about the retirement of Microsoft Project Online. And for those of you that might not be familiar with this solution, you will most likely be aware of Microsoft Project Desktop, which you've probably used historically. So Project Online was really the enterprise extension to that. And it was the interface that allowed you to bring all of your data into one consolidated view and to be able to report up from there as well. So Project Online itself has been available since 2013, available through Microsoft 365. We've got some very large organizations and even smaller organizations that are using Project Online. So the announcement, I think it was about 3-4 months ago, that Project Online was going to retire by September 2026, came as a really big surprise to many of us. But why is it going? It's primarily because it's built on legacy architecture that's underpinned by SharePoint 2013. Microsoft's focus going forward is very much around Copilot and modern solutions like Planner that can dovetail into Copilot. So that really explains why it's falling by the wayside. In terms of a key date, retirement is on September the 30th, 2026, which is just under 8 months away. Prior to that, on April the 2nd, and Philippa, I know you're using Project Online, so of interest to you possibly, and to anybody else using Project Online, is that workflows that you would use to control your stage gate process, if you've got any of those in place by April the 2nd, they will stop working. Okay, so prior to the shutdown, again, your workflows will cease to function as well. Now, when I talk about September the 30th, some people still believe that they'll still have read-only access to Project Online. That's not the case. On that date, or specifically October the 1st, when you go to your PWA URL, you will find that there's nothing there. Project Online will not be accessible. Your data that will have been in there will have gone as well. So everything's going to go. So that really means you need to start thinking about next steps. And even though I know that September still seems like quite a while away, it's human tendency to think, oh, the deadline's in a few months, I'll think about it later, I'll think about it later. But look, most of us are project management professionals, and we need to plan well in advance to ensure that we've got a good buffer between the shut off Project Online and we've got something to replace it in place beforehand and project successfully migrated. And that's really what I talked about on this LinkedIn post, which I posted, I think it was back in October last year. And the thing is, when you are thinking about transitioning, it's not just a case of switching on another solution and away you go. We've got to capture your requirements. We've got to build a new solution. We've got to migrate your data if you want to do that as well. And there's change management process to run through. There's training of your user base. And there's a lot to consider. And deployments generally take time, even for a implementation of the modern platform that's built around Microsoft Planner. That by itself could take between 2 to 3 months. But when you then layer on top migration of your existing configuration or your data, if you want to go down that route, you could be looking at around 6 months. And considering I've already signposted, we've got under 8 months left, and organizations generally, especially when you're public sector, you have to go through an RFP process. You do not have much time at all to start thinking about moving. You've got to really get on that straight away. So our solution around project management is the Accelerator Plus. It sits entirely within the Microsoft 365 stack. And it's really built around Microsoft Planner Premium. So this is the name of the latest scheduling tool that Microsoft have. It's entirely browser-based. Project Desktop is still available. So Project Standard, Project Professional, but those are not solutions that are built into the modern future-proof way of working. They're very much perceived to be legacy solutions, whereas Planner Premium, browser-based, it also has Copilot capability built into it. And what I can tell you is from organizations that have adopted Planner Premium and the Accelerator Plus, but historically used Project Online or even the on-premise version Project Server, uptake and adoption from a new platform has been significantly higher because it's more accessible, it's more user-friendly, whereas Project Online was always perceived to be more of a sledgehammer to crack a walnut, should we say, and it's starting to look a bit dated, and I can see one or two smiles on the screen. So yeah, we all agree. So if I think about Planner Premium by itself as a standalone solution, it's nothing more than a scheduling engine. It's where you can go in, add your tasks, assign resources, basic, but it's designed to be extended. And by adding on the Accelerator Plus, which is built in the Microsoft Power Platform, we can switch on the kind of capability you see displayed on screen. And I will preempt a question that might come up a bit later. When I'm referring to Planner Premium, it's a solution that requires a paid for license, which would be Planner Plan 1 or Planner Plan 3 or 5. It's not to be confused with Planner Basic that you get as part of Microsoft 365. There is some commonality in terms of user interface, but I'll go into that in a bit more detail when I get onto the demo itself. But look, generally speaking, all up as an all-up solution, we've got a lot of capability that we can deliver as part of the Accelerator Plus. And this slide deck will be shared out, and I know that the recording is going to be available on demand as well. So I'll whiz through these slides, and you can read through that in your own time. But just to recap what the solution that we provide offers, it extends Planner Premium to provide you with an AI-ready PMO, PPM solution. Whatever I present today is my generic demo environment. It can be customized, can be extended. And what I always say is that we can also simplify it. If you're looking at it thinking, oh, it's a bit too clever, it's a bit too much, don't worry, we can dial it back. It's also something that's deployed inside of your Microsoft 365 tenants, and it only requires native Microsoft licensing, which if you've already got Project Online, you've pretty much got most of the licenses that you need for the new stack. And some of the key benefits over and above Project Online, it's a much nicer user interface. It also offers Teams integration, and I'd say the collaboration capability within this, co-working and so forth, co-authoring, significantly better. And one of my bugbears with Project Online was always that you had Project Web App and then you had a separate project side portal. So it was a bit of a disjointed experience, whereas with the Accelerator Plus, it's a single layer. It's really unified. Workflows, I signposted earlier that they are going to expire, stop working in April 2026, so more 2 months from now. Within the Accelerator Plus, we tend to use Microsoft Power Automate. The workflows, first of all, visually they are much better. They're not static like the workflows that you had in Project Online. They're very interactive. So if you want to define your stage gate process, and you even want to signpost your checklist criteria and get people to interact with it, you can do that really easily. I'd say that in terms of licensing, again, one of the complaints with Project Online was historically that even if somebody wants to get read-only access, they've got to have a license. Even if you want to send somebody an email alert to say that they've been assigned a task within the schedule, they've got to be licensed. With the new platform, that's not really the case, and I will talk about licensing a bit later. And last but not least, it also has Copilot AI integration, and I'm sure that many of you are dabbling with AI, Copilot, and you're looking for solutions that allow you to maximize your investment in that area and to get additional benefit. So look, I've presented a handful of slides. We've got around 15 to 20 minutes left. I'm going to provide quite a lightweight demo. I'm not going to go through every nut and bolt of what the Accelerator Plus can provide, but I will go through some of the key features. And in fact, Emma, before I do, are you going to go through the remainder of Menti? Fine.
Yeah,
Let's
just
take
want
a
to get
segue
that
into
ready.
Menti.
Yeah, so thank you very much for filling the Menti in. It just gives us a view on what to show you effectively. So we can see that not everybody's super project focused that's on the call. So sometimes we use projects, other times we use BAU. And as a PMO professional specialist, that's one of the key questions that we always ask is like, how many projects have you got? And then a company will say, I don't know, we have 80 projects, and we find that there is some disjointment there between what a project is and what business as usual is. And we quite often find that BAU is being managed as a project because we need visibility, and sometimes projects are being managed as BAU because we thought they were smaller than they actually are. So that kind of really lends itself to some of those scenarios. All of you are using Microsoft 365, so you're in the right webinar, so that's good. And 40% of you are currently using Microsoft Project Online, so this is particularly pertinent for you guys, and everybody else, just be aware that there are solutions out there. In terms of what you are using, if you're not using that, we can see it's a real combination. The bigger the word, the more that you guys have put it in. So SharePoint is obviously the biggest thing that we can see here. Looking at Jira, Excel, Atlassian as well, just using Microsoft Teams as it kind of comes out of the box. Keyed in as well, so some of those external non-Microsoft solutions as well. So Baz, does that help you in terms of the demo?
Yes, it does. And really what I'm going to present now is a great alternative to SharePoint, to Project Online, to Project Professional, because a lot of the time when people use Project Professional in isolation, you're creating little silos. Only the project managers have got visibility. Collaboration is really a distant thought, whereas what I have allows you to get more from your investment in Microsoft 365, allows you to make better use of Planner, and it allows you to use Teams and SharePoint in a more connected way with the initiatives that you're managing. So yes, Emma, that was really useful. I am going to take over the screen again and go through a bit of a lightweight demo, and I will be sharing my contact details at the end. So if anybody wants to book in a quick call or a personalized demo, or wants to talk about what potential next steps might look like, more than happy to have those conversations going on. For now, you should be able to see my screen. This is the homepage to the Accelerator Plus. And this has got a very unique look and feel. We can absolutely brand this. We can apply your logos, corporate colors. We can even change the layout of this homepage. And one thing to bear in mind is that just as you have within Project Online, we can set up role-based access here as well. So Philippa, you might go in and you might see all of the options. And Naginda, you're here as well. I can see you. You might go in and you might see a subset of the options. It really depends on your role. But here we have tried to mimic the look and feel of Project Online. We've got some navigation tiles, metrics linked to my login. We also then see a bunch of charts and dials being displayed. This can all, of course, be customized. We see upcoming milestones. And when I open up the menu on the left-hand side, again, a multitude of options, pipeline. And this is common to all of you, regardless of whether or not you're using Project Online already. How many of you have a project intake process? Some of you might have, it might be ad hoc, whereas with this, it's a central point for all project requests or ideas that are being submitted. You can ask people to build business cases, to demonstrate things like strategic alignments, to even showcase which objectives the initiatives align to or which key results they're going to help drive. But we can make that more of an objective process. And I'm not going to cover it in detail today because we are running out of time, but that is the kind of capability that we have. We, of course, then provide centralized views of all of your project portfolios in one centralized location. We automate your reporting using Microsoft Power BI, using the power or the data really from the Accelerator Plus and Planner Premium. And look, all of your RAID logs are in one place as well. And I know that a lot of organizations struggle by having some of them in Excel, some in SharePoint, some in OneNote. And if different people across your organization are working in different ways, well, good luck trying to bring all of the data together to make sense of it. It's very difficult. Whereas here, it's in one location, but it's also captured consistently. We also have some other project management artifacts there as well, like benefits trackers, lesson logs, and so forth. Some of that I'm not going to be able to go through today. This is just a bit of a scratch in the ice, so to speak. But look, I'll go straight into the project center view, or the live centralized view of all of your projects. And this is really no different to the project center that you've got in Project Online, or if you currently operate a manually produced project register, again, it's the same thing. The difference being that this data is driven by the individual initiatives that have been onboarded. all we're doing here is surfacing all that information in one place. So I'm currently looking at all of my active projects. I can easily go in and select from different global views. I might want to focus on a cost summary view, in which case a lot of the columns are now reporting financial data. I might also want to go in and look at just my active projects, in which case it's a condensed list, but here I'm also seeing lots of KPIs linked to those ideas as well. So it'd be projects. And the way in which we generate a red, amber, or green, in this example, it's manual. But if you are baselining all of your data, many of these things we can also generate automatically by looking at the baseline versus actuals, look at the variance, and we can generate some scoring off the back of it. If I drill down into this project, the COO Health Assessment Tool, this is really my detailed view of this initiative. And look, in broad terms, at the top, I can see a visualization of the project life cycle that this project is going to follow. Of course, you might have different departments, different project types you want to onboard into the tool. Each one could have its own set of templates that would drive a different governance process, require a different set of forms to be completed, and you might want to provide the project managers with different schedule templates. So all of this can be templated up. But the workflow here, really interactive. Not only are we showcasing here at the top the different stages that the PMs have to go through, but we are also then breaking them down into these interactive checklists, which they have to complete to evidence that they've done things they should have done before requesting permission to move on to the next phase. Beneath that, we've got all of these tabs. And again, apologies, we won't go through all of them. But if you think about Project Online, some of this is a little bit disjointed because you would have some of these tabs in PWA. But then when it comes to documents, RAID logs, project site, it's a separate portal. And within the separate portal, there's also reporting limitations. You can't report on custom data, custom logs. Here, there's no limitation. We can report on everything out of the box. Looking at the summary page, this is an example of a onboarding form where we've captured things like project name. We've defined a project manager. We've captured a description. We've been able to define the project type. We've also been able to link this to a portfolio, allocate it to a program, define which business unit it sits within. We can set the status of a project, and we can also identify who the sponsor is. We can also see schedule information coming in and status reporting, that again all captured centrally and made visible there. And one of the sections there does link to the schedule. So if I click into tasks, you will see loading up in the central part of the screen my Microsoft Planner Premium project plan. And I can choose to view this in a grid view, which is the most traditional layout. I can also choose to view a timeline, which is highly interactive. So there's a list of all of my tasks. And let me see if I've got anything that I can update. Let me zoom out a tiny bit, go back in. I think this one's all been completed. But there's a visual representation of my schedule. I can go in, adjust things as required. But linking back to Planner and some of the views that you guys might be familiar with, here's my board layout of my project plan. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you edit your schedule using the grid view, the timeline, the board, it's a single plan. And I will very quickly go into one of these tasks. And again, it's just a drill down of that information. And there's so much you can do there. But again, we are effectively running out of time. So I'll go back to my main screen. I will go into the cost section. In fact, no, let me go to the business case section. Here's an example, a very basic example of some narrative being captured to supplement the business case. We can absolutely expand upon this. This is just a very simple example. And here's an illustration of how we might link the project idea or the project itself to various strategic drivers. This is where we are indicating to what extent this project helps support what the organization is trying to strive towards. Cost information, we can support very high-level cost capture or do something a lot more sophisticated, as you see there at the bottom. Document management still underpinned by SharePoint, but again, we're visualizing the information here within the Accelerator Plus. We can do a lot around resource management. If you're looking to assign individuals, whether it's a named individual or a generic resource against your projects, and you want to see a resource demand versus capacity, we can do all of that. I'm not going to showcase it. I will very quickly go into the risk log. I mean, if you've seen one risk log, you've seen them all. It's just that this is all captured centrally. There is my risk matrix. Outside of that, I've got individual risks. I'm going to drill down and just illustrate really quickly the type of detail we're capturing. Obviously, we can set a status, we can categorize, we can choose view risk response. We can also assign this to somebody. We can apply scoring. One of the things that's really nice here is the ability to link or convert a risk into an issue, which is what I've done here already. So I've said, yes, this is now a risk that is materialized, converted into an issue. And what I've showcased so far is my risk log at the project level, but any of these logs, we can go in and view them at the portfolio level as well. So there's a list of all my risks across the entire portfolio. Now, just to demonstrate a bit of Copilot capability, I guess many of you are managing portfolios or heading up PMOs, and a common question for you might be, well, how up to date is some of the data? Yes, you can go into some of the views or look at reporting, but how nice would it be if you could just ask Copilot the question? So I'm going to do precisely that. Show me a list of projects that have not been updated in the last 20 days. Sorry, lots of spelling mistakes, but it's still going to understand what I'm asking. And I blame the spelling mistakes on a cut that I have on my finger, but I won't complain about that too much. It's now working on my query. And in a similar vein, I could also ask it to show me a list of all the risks that do not have mitigation plans. I could ask it to show me all of the lessons learned that have been collated over time that might apply to my project. There's a lot that I can ask. In fact, one of the things we've not been able to do today is ignore that error. Let's do that one more time. This is a beta test environment. Sometimes backend changes are being made by my engineers or by Microsoft, and that kind of breaks things on occasion. This would not really happen in the real world. There we go. So I've asked it to show me a list of projects that have not been updated in the last 20 days, even though I had a spelling mistake in there. And it's given me a list of those projects. So I almost have a list of people that I need to go and chase, but I can refine that list. I can show all of this information on a single page. And what I might want to do here is expand upon this view. I want to know who the project manager is that I need to hit with a big virtual stick. I might even want to know who the sponsor is so I can tell them how badly their project managers are doing. I might also want to see, well, which portfolio does this sit within, and specifically which program is this aligned to as well. So I've done all of that. So I'm going to apply. And what I have now is a richer view than what I had a few moments ago. And one of the benefits of this tool is the native Teams integration. Anytime you've got a person that's logged into Teams and displayed here, you can hover over the name and strike up a conversation. This being a dummy test environment, nobody's logged into Teams, which is why it doesn't really light up. But we'd be able to see if they're available, if they're busy, if their status is do not disturb, whether they're away from their desk. We'd be able to see all of that. One remaining thing that I'm going to showcase really quickly is the reporting pack. Now, for those of you using Project Online, this will not be anything new. Power BI is still the reporting engine. For those of you using Atlassian or Planner or Project Desktop by itself, or just SharePoint, I guess reporting is going to be a little bit ad hoc, maybe something that you're producing in Excel, copying and pasting into a PowerPoint slide deck. Here, well, your reports are generated automatically. This is a high-level menu, but if I go into the portfolio dashboard, I'm putting all of that information into one place and making it a lot more visual. Okay, that's what I'm doing. I have, as a side to this, got the ability to go in and specify different filters. And what's really nice in this is that any one of these graphical elements can also act as a filter. So if I'm only interested in the projects in planning, click on that segment, I've filtered that view. Something that I talked about earlier was risks. Let me go into the risk dashboard. I can see that I've got lots of risks. I've got many of which are technical related or financial related or resource related. Let's click on that segment of the donut report. That's making me hungry. But these are now 4 risks allocated to resource management, being cited as a risk on that project. Resource management, because I've talked about it, let me go to my resource availability report. I've got a ton of filters that I could apply, but in very simple terms, I've got a capacity line. I can see the bars representing the demand. So it's only in the month of September that I'm exceeding demand. The rest of the time, people are sitting around watching, I don't know, TikToks or something else, but they're not seemingly assigned to project work. I've also got a corresponding heat map report where I can see very quickly who's been ever allocated, who's got plenty of availability, and I can then use this information to make judgments and calls on how I'm going to reallocate some of this work around. Look, I could go on all day with this reporting. I won't do that. What I will very quickly show is one more thing, and that is the ability to bring all of this into Microsoft Teams. So underpinning each project schedule or each project in the Accelerator Plus could be a Teams channel, which is where I can access my project plan. And linked to the project plan, I might also have lots of ongoing conversations. I can also surface some of these conversations against individual tasks within the project schedule as well. But again, look, there's so much that we can do, and we don't really have enough time to be able to go through all of this. So what I'm going to do for now is very quickly signpost a couple of things, but actually there's only a small proportion of you that might be interested in migrating Project Online to the Accelerator Plus. So let's maybe arrange some offline conversations. Licensing, I will distribute the slide, or Emma will distribute the slide. So let's talk about next steps. If you do want to book in a call with myself to talk specifically about moving from Project Online to the Accelerator Plus, you can scan this and just book in a 15-minute chat. And we'll just talk broad brush options that might be available. And beyond this, my LinkedIn details are shared here. So Emma's, I did signpost our LinkedIn URLs in the chat window earlier. So please do get in touch. Follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on YouTube. And for anything else, you can also drop an email to info@wellington.co.uk. But again, if you've got a connection to myself or Emma via LinkedIn, just ping us. We will be more than happy to field any questions that you might have. But talking of questions, Emma, I think we are going to, if time permits, just maybe invite 1 or 2 questions really quickly. Is that all right for you, Kevin?
Rambling to get off mute. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got until 1 o'clock as far as I'm concerned.
Oh,
so
okay.
use
Good.
that time as you see fit.
Brilliant.
So we don't have any questions in the chat yet, but we always know that nobody likes to be first. So if you want to ask a question, pop it in the chat or pop your hand up, and then you can come off mute, pop your camera on and ask specific questions. But I know, Baz, one of the questions that we always tend to get when we do these webinars is, if I'm using Project Online, you mentioned earlier, it is considered to be a quite heavyweight solution. There's lots of controls that we can apply in Project Online. And we all know that Planner is designed to be more collaborative. So are there any limitations, anything that we can't do because just Planner isn't there yet, albeit Microsoft is continually evolving the solution?
Yeah, I mean,
People be aware of.
Yeah, if we come down to the nuts and bolts of the heart of the solution, which is the scheduling engine, then in Project Online through your Project Professional, you will have a more sophisticated application there, purely for the purposes of planning. Planner Premium is a little bit lighter, but I would argue that where you maybe lose a bit of high-level capability, but only a very small number of people ever use, you're gaining access to a more collaborative solution, something that's going to be more inviting, more people will be willing to use the application, and you also then get the Copilot integration as well. So I'd say, yes, you might lose some really powerful functionality on one end of it, but I'd argue on the flip side of that not many people are probably using that really sophisticated capability, and you will gain more by going to the new platform.
And in that case, if my organization's like, we can't go in the cloud for whatever reason, and I know we have some clients that they can't work that way, what's the option for them if they're currently using this? Is there a different, is there a plan B?
So the like-for-like solution to migrate from Project Online would be Project Server Subscription Edition. So it is deployed on-premise or in Azure Cloud, but it is licensed through Microsoft 365. So that would be the like-for-like alternative. Now, whilst it's going to be great in order to give you that same look and feel as Project Online, if that's what you want, just bear in mind that you're not then getting access to things like Copilot or that third-party external access or the collaborative capability that you would have through Microsoft Teams. I can see a couple of hands up. So, Philippa, I'll come to you first. Your hand was up first. So, yes, fire away with any questions.
You're on mute, Philippa.
Thank you. Just in terms of any migrations that you've already done or anybody that you've put onto this new product that was working from a manual PMO, do you have any sort of hard statistics of efficiencies gained and that sort of information benefits from it that have been sort of baselined and then
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And unfortunately, we've got lots and lots of case studies, but one of the things we don't really have in there are the efficiency gains. And one of the reasons, just being very transparent, is because we tend to write the case studies pretty soon after the implementation, rather than revisiting 6 months later and being able to do a before and after comparison. But like I said, we've got lots of case studies, lots of reference sites as well, where organizations have gone from either Project Server or Project Online to the Accelerator Plus, or a lot of the time gone from manual ways of working in Excel. We can provide reference sites. You can speak to our customers directly, people that have been through the journey, and you can hear essentially from the horse's mouth. And I'm sure they will give you warts and all accounts of not only what the implementation was like, what we were like as an implementation partner, but they'll talk about the implementation journey, what they might have done differently, should they do it again. But more importantly, they will be able to talk to you about the benefits realized. But having said that, all of our case studies do broad brush talk about high level benefits realized. It's the typical things, it's made us more collaborative. Reporting's been automated. We've now got a better view of where our resource bottlenecks are. So undoubtedly, people do realize benefits. We don't have the numbers. We will be making an update to one of our case studies in over the next 6 months or so. But like I said, more than happy to provide introductions.
The other thing that you can do is if you join our Wellingtone community, we do invite those customers to come and talk about their journey a bit later on. So we run those webinars we do at least 2 webinars a month. Some of the time that's with some of these customers. And we also run a conference where we invite some of those to talk about their experiences. So you can get that insight. But in the case studies, there's a combination of timing, but also with some clients, they don't want to put the nuts and bolts specifics into a public case study effectively. But yeah, we're very happy to connect you, and we'll pop the link to join the community in the chat. Anne, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I work for Lloyd's Clinical, where I'm in the PMO there. I've struggled with moving to Planner because some of our plans are 270, 280 lines long. And actually, you get scrolling fatigue when you actually load them up into Planner because they all it just doesn't render well. So I wondered whether, I've got 2 questions actually, but the first question is there a way around that so you can automatically put it into neater controlled buckets per stage gate? And the second thing is, how technical do you have to have your people? And would a good technician be able to do this independently? Always trying to save the pennies, we are. I dare say anyone else in the public sector is doing exactly the same. If we can do it ourselves, we'd prefer to, but is it accessible? Do you need to have, be waving your Fortran certificate that you got in the 80s to do this?
Oh, yeah.
I have one, by the way.
Thanks, Anne. You might have to reiterate some of the questions further down the line, but to tackle your question around implementation and how skilled do you need to be. So generally speaking, when we deploy the Accelerator Plus, it's something that we would undertake for you. So we would do discovery and design, capture your requirements. We would deploy the app in your tenant and configure it based upon your requirements. We would then provide go live assistance and training. And we also offer ongoing support services. So we can, in effect, become your administrators and give you some banked hours for further enhancement in due course. So that's something that we can undertake ourselves. Certain elements of a config we can leave open so that in due course, should your ways of working change in future, you can go in and make some minor tweaks yourselves. But the application itself is primarily built using Microsoft Power Apps, which is what Microsoft low code, no code. But if you did want to undertake more significant customization, your resources would need to have Power Apps development expertise. Does that make sense, then?
Yeah, no, that's fine. And what
Yeah.
about the point that when you actually migrate a large complex enterprise project of hundreds of lines with hundreds of tasks?
Yeah.
Because everything I've seen, I've looked at Monday. We had something called Progio, which you may or may not have heard of, but they're all very, advertising campaign, blah blah blah, very superficial tasks, and some of our tasks are minute by minute.
Oof,
really deep plan.
Yeah. So it's a two-part answer to that. So first of all, if you're using Project Desktop historically, the benefit of that solution is that you can really zoom out to quite an extent. You can also break your tasks down into different outline levels and make things a lot more digestible. At the minute, within Planner Premium, the grid view or the timeline view in particular, there's only so far we can zoom out, and we're not able to outline filter the views either. But in your scenario, I guess when they're advertising campaigns or something of that type, you'd probably want to allocate your tasks to buckets and really rely on the Kanban view, where it's going to give you more of a digestible interface. But really, Anne, I guess I'd have to look at one of your plans as it currently stands and then be able to provide more of a informed response on that. But if your tasks are effectively minute by minute, I mean, that's a lot of tasks going into a real granular level of detail. The bulk of the organizations we work with tend to allocate tasks by the day, by the week, or maybe half the day at the most. Doing an hourly task or something that might be a minute by minute.
They're just for critical cutovers. But I mean, typically our plans will have several hundred lines and several hundred dependencies across the portfolio. And the other, I mean, we've got so many questions. Maybe we'll take it offline. Sorry, everybody.
No problem at all. But yeah, because you've got an existing setup and quite a specific set of questions, I think, and if you and I could jump on a call together and do a bit of a screen share, I would then be able to provide you some more informed responses, if that's okay. Is that all right with you, Anne?
No, thank you. No.
Yeah, perfect. Yes, Naginda, go for it. Well, you're muted, by the way.
Yes, I am. Sorry about that. Yes, a very powerful tool, and great to see it. It's kind of now no one has got anywhere to hide as to what is happening. Do I need more resources? What are the risks? Who's working on something or not working? It's like a massive police operation going on from somewhere else, especially for management. Sorry to say that, but what is the cost impact? I mean, what sort of percentage increase will be in the Microsoft license cost if one was to take this on? Because there's always a cry, we just can't afford anything. So might as well get the answer now.
Yeah, so I'll come back to licensing. I've shared, oh no, I haven't shared anything. Give me a second. I'm sharing on screen the licensing slide. And again, I'm sure Emma's probably going to circulate the slide deck afterwards. Now, prior to licensing, there's obviously a implementation cost. So this is where we would come in, capture your requirements, set up the tool, provide training. We've got a fixed price quick start implementation package that starts at $19,950, so just under £20,000. Although that will vary depending upon your implementation scope, level of complexity, how many people you want to train, how many templates you want to have set up. So the cost can obviously go up, but that's as a starting point, the entry point. In terms of licensing, if you belong to a larger enterprise organization, honestly, the chances are you've already got some of these licenses. IT have got them because they're on your licensing agreement, but people are not told that the licenses are available until they go and ask. So I would suspect most organizations probably have Planner and Project Plan 3. So a quick and easy way to tell is, do you have access to Microsoft Project Desktop? If you do, you've got access to Planner Premium. Okay. If you are accessing any Power BI reports at the moment that are customized, again, you've already got access to Power BI Pro.
Okay.
The additional license would then be in relation to the Accelerator Plus, which is a model-driven Microsoft Power App. And in order to access it, there's 2 licenses. Well, you can choose one or the other. If the Accelerator Plus is the only Power App you as a user have to go and access, then it's Power Apps pay as you go. It means that, Naginda, for example, if you've gone in this week into the Accelerator Plus, you can then go in as many times as you want for the rest of February, but you've only been charged for it once. And the current price is £8.10, advertised price on the Microsoft website. If you're a public sector organization, a larger enterprise, you will get that at a discount. If a person within their organization has to access 2 or 3 Power Apps, it could be the Accelerator Plus, you might have other Power Apps in addition, then you would, instead of getting pay as you go, you would get Power Apps Premium, which gives you access to unlimited Power Apps for a set cost of around, I think it's £15 something per month. So it's more cost effective.
Yeah.
But that is your Microsoft licensing. But again, if you're a public sector organization, a large enterprise organization, speak to your licensing team, show them this kind of screenshot and ask, which of these licenses have we already got?
Yep.
And you might be surprised, you've probably got all of them.
True. Okay.
Again, which organization do you work for, sorry?
At the moment, NHS, but also with the UN. So I've got 2 things going on, pretty large organizations.
Yeah, so the NHS, we've worked with several NHS trusts, some of whom are on the central NHS tenants, others have got their own tenants.
Yeah.
I think some of them have already had some of the project licensing, some of the Power BI licensing. Power Apps is something that they normally need to bolt on. But the thing with Power Apps is it's got multiple use cases. It's not limited to the Accelerator Plus. It can be applied to multiple Power Apps.
Right. Okay, this is helpful as a starter. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Naginda. And conscious we've only got like a minute left.
Yeah.
Does anybody else want to squeeze a question in, or maybe I'll hand back to Emma or Kevin just to wrap up, I guess.
So we don't have any other questions in the chat and we don't have any hands up. I will send the slide deck through. We've obviously put a few links in the chat, so we'll kind of consolidate those as well. So anybody that's kind of registered will get that information. And part of that, and the last slide that you'll see, is both mine and Baz's kind of contact details. So if you do want to have a chat, you don't have to buy anything from us. We'd love it if you did, but sometimes it is just about supporting the community to make the right decisions and have all the information they have available to them. So do get in touch. You can chat to us, continue the conversation with Wellingtone. We're very happy to kind of have a look at what you're doing now confidentially, and then give you some more ideas that are a bit more granular. But other than that, we just want to say thank you so much for having us. It's been a pleasure to work with the Women in Technology group. Thank you, Kevin. And I'll hand back over to you, if that's all right.